Good morning, self lovers. Welcome back to the Self Love Show. I'm your co host, Dawn Light. My beautiful sister here, Trish Wright, is with us as well. We're your co hosts for the Self Love Show in case you're new to us. And if you are a returning viewer, we're so thankful for your viewership. It really means the world to us. This has been a passion project and a place of devotion to self love, devotion to love, right? Inside our beings and helping you have the best relationship with yourself, most importantly, creator within, and all your relationships, which is creator. And so, why not exponentially lean into having the best way of being in our daily presence possible, right? With love. And so we have a great guest today. I'm going to announce her, but before I do that, I really want to remind you that we exist everywhere on all the platforms, podcasts, all the places. So please go like, share, and subscribe, especially our YouTube channel. Share out the gems. Please, please, please. We ask for this blessing that you do this because it helps broadcast the show to the people that need the messages. And we have so many amazing shows over the past 4 years. They're just gems of goodness. And we try to share a tool or a resource or a way to help you. And that is such a gift, right? To have free tools and resources in our lives. You might have a special circumstance that you need that extra step and you didn't know until you saw one of the shows. So that's a possibility of exponential healing at any time for anyone. So we just want to give you that grace and that love, and it's our passion and our devotion to do so. So without further ado, we have an amazing guest today. So grateful to introduce her. I'm going to read her bio. So, Elizabeth Lewis is joining us today, and we're venturing into the realm of romance and mastering the craft of drawing love closer once again. Whether you're re entering the dating game after some time away or venturing into the realm of romance anew, embarking on this quest for connection can be exhilarating yet intimidating. Together, we'll delve into the actionable insight and sincere guidance on opening your heart anew to love. From establishing clear goals to being your true self and healing from previous hurts, our conversation is centered on advancing with optimism and assurance. Come along as we unravel the secrets to inviting love into your existence, forging significant bonds, and authoring the forthcoming chapter of your romantic tale. Yes. Elizabeth Lewis, a widow who has since remarried, is the proud mother of two adult children, along with three bonus children and a retired elementary teacher with a commendable 27-year tenure in Louisville, Kentucky. Where she was honored as the 1996 Kentucky Elementary Teacher of the Year. Yes, in 2011, she established the largest singles group in Louisville, Singles Meet Singles LLC, which now boasts over 4,000 members. Her passion for people and supporting singles, especially those navigating the dating world for the next time, shines through her work. Over the years, Elizabeth has become a confident and advisor on dating issues, carving out a niche in working with relationships of all kinds, with a special focus on next time around singles, who make up three-quarters of her clientele. She recognizes the profound need for her expertise in every community, distinguishing herself not as a matchmaker or a hitch, but as a guide, helping her clients explore various dating perspectives to find one that truly aligns with their values. She excels in identifying and clearing what she terms as saboteurs or blockers, offering her clients full text and email access between sessions for continuous support. Elizabeth is also an accomplished author, having written three books aimed at helping next time around singles move forward, adding significant value to the singles community. A highlight of her personal journey is her own love story. After 16 years of being single and 362 meet and greets, she met the next love of her life online. He relocated to her city, and together they built a home, planning to focus their ministry on couples in Richmond. However, Elizabeth remains dedicated to supporting next time around singles and finding love again, just as she did. Oh, what a beautiful, beautiful welcome.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
You. Yee. Oh, you know, we've talked a little bit, and I know that Dawn knows all about my business around. I'm really fascinated with dating currently, and what I'm really fascinated with is how people in this wild world of digital dating and in-person dating and codependency and really finding what is true to them, I'm really fascinated with how people find each other. And especially, I've known, my parents were divorced and then they remarried and then my mother remarried a couple times and my stepdad took a long time getting remarried. And I heard their struggles, you know, as an older community, as a man who had in his 50s, and I just heard their pain about dating because everyone either had been dating or had wives and they were already like really settled. So I'm curious about what your experience was after.
Well, it's of course different for everybody. I was a widow 5 when my kids were 9 and 11. And so
Wow.
there was no I was nowhere near ready to date, really. My kids were young, and I remember one year after he died, everybody was like, "Well, are you ready to date?" And I'm like, no, like I gotta raise these kids and they gotta end up okay." And there was just too much on my plate. Well, sure enough, 3 years later, I had what is known as kind of a rebound relationship. The first one you fall in love with after either a divorce or losing a spouse. And I mean, it was like, oh, he's the one, all the things, because it had been 3 years, right, since my husband had been around. And found out it was kind of a long story. I have the story in my book, but it did teach me I could love again, and I wasn't ready to love before then. So where do you go? You work full time, and the kids are in soccer, and everybody's got the things and the things. So you go online, and that's a whole learning curve. And so, to answer your question, a lot of people jump online too soon. Now, I'm a huge advocate for online. I help people date online. It's a world of people you would never meet in your little bubble that we live in, right? I mean, we just do. We go to the same coffee shop, we go to the same church, we go to the same, you know, we might venture out a little bit, but we're back to the bubble. So, so a lot of people jump on too soon, and then they learn all the hard lessons. I learned a lot of hard lessons too, and in the book that I wrote, the First Date Next Mate book, I know we can talk about that later, but it really kind of helps navigate you through that, whether you're like putting your toes in, or like, how do I know if I'm ready, and what do I do when I am ready, and how do I do this whole online thing. And I teach you the do's and the don'ts and the pros and the cons, and what a scammer looks like, and how to communicate, and just the whole thing. So I don't know, I kind of threw a lot at you. I don't know if that answered your question totally, Trish, but
We're gonna be moving through the conversation. So yeah, it is. Man, there's just like so much to talk about here. It's like,
throw out a topic.
yeah, no, it's really big because again, I really love my parents, and my mother remarried a man whose wife had passed, and just some of the like challenges that they had as they were growing together. And I think about, I'm older now, and the people that I date are primarily divorced and have children.
Hmm.
And dating someone with children is very different than dating in my 20s, and dating because it's a different level of commitment and a different level of showing up in presence for not just like one but a family. And it's like when my mom moved in with this, just he's like the sweetest man ever. Oh my god, I'm so glad that they're married. And
Hmm.
he had, 2, 3 boys who were like in different stages of their like getting out of the house, and it was really wild and beautiful to see how they all integrated together, and it just gave me a lot of perspective to sit back and think about what it looks like, just like the different kinds of challenges of dating
Hmm.
in your like 20s and 30s and then into your 40s and 50s and 60s. And Yeah, I just think about the big hearts that want to love, you know,
Yeah,
that
we are wired that way. We're wired to love and be loved. And so, a lot of singles, we talked about those saboteurs. The saboteurs are that negative thing in your head that says, "Oh, you're too old, you're too, too fat, you have too many wrinkles, you have too much cellulite on your legs. Like, who's ever going to love that?" We have all of these saboteurs in our head. And I just lost my train of thought. That happens a lot when you're my age. What was your original?
It's okay. It
I,
happens a lot too. I've got ADHD, so we're all over the board.
I was just gonna jump in real quick and say, dating in your early 20s is radically different from dating in your 40s and 50s, right? The components of
that's
life
where
have
we were going.
shifted. I mean, it's just so different, when you're in your
It is
20s,
so
you're
different.
discovering yourself. You don't really fully know who you are yet, in a way. Like, yes, there's some very
Yeah.
aware 20-year-olds that are very, very aware, and I do give them that. But I think I just look back on my experience, and I met my husband at the end of my 20s and got married at 29, and then we didn't have a child until I was 35. So we took our time, but I'm so grateful that it happened in that time period for me. But I see my sister friends that ache for a relationship and it hasn't quite worked out, or they haven't, and I have one friend that like wanted a baby so badly, but she was approaching her 40s, and it's like she just had to let the baby come and stop putting the pressure on, is this the man and the baby, and then
Yeah.
now she let the baby come, raise the baby, and then she got into a good relationship, and she's in one
Yeah.
now, and it's like it's every person does it so uniquely to what their soul's curriculum is, and it's like, give yourself
Yeah.
permission.
Yeah, but it is very different, obviously, because I think my youngest client currently is like, I think he's 24. He's actually a widower, which is very rare, a 24-year-old widower. And I think my oldest one has been 80. I mean, so literally, guess what? 80-year-olds want to walk to heaven with somebody too, and so they don't want to die alone. And so there's no shame in that, right? So got her online and she's dating somebody. It's very cool. But here's what's not different. The saboteurs are not different. My 24-year-old has some very strong saboteurs. I'm kind of coaching him through some of those now. Um, the next time arounders, they may have more and they're not as strong, or they have a few and they're very strong. And the next book I wrote about, you probably can't see it. But it's How to Find Love Again. It's very short. It's $5. I don't make any money off of it. It's kind of my gift back to the singles world. And it talks all about that mindset, about putting your mind in a place of opening for love again. Like, I'm open, but I'd never go online. Oh, you're closed. You just close that. Or I could date somebody, let's say they're 37. Well, my limit is 40, and I wouldn't date anybody over 40. It's like, well, you're closed again. And so the words, "Oh, I'm open," but yet their words don't match that. Or they have a prayer, "God, send them to me, I'm ready," but then their words don't match that. It's like canceling the prayer. And so I teach people how to, what you pray for, what you think about, what you think about comes about, right? The whole law of attraction thing. Law of attraction works whether you believe it or not. So you may as well learn about it and know that it's, know that it's a thing. But I'm rambling now,
No,
but
we're good.
I'm with you on that.
Okay, I got a controversial question.
Yes.
Okay. So as you know, I'm in school, and I'm almost twice these kids' age. So I'm sitting with 19, 20, 22-year-olds every day, and I'm pushing twice that. And there's this kid that I've been really connecting with. He's 22. He's super cool. We get to debate and argue about philosophy, and it's super fun. And the other day, he asks to kiss me, and I go, I was like, "Oh, darn it!" Like, and I was like, in my poor little brain, because I was like, if I was younger, like that's my thought, because I had this like oh no moment. And I do have some pretty like thoughts on like some pretty interesting thoughts on like age. And I looked at this kid and I was like, oh no, there's attraction here. So I was like, I appreciate what you want, and I appreciate what you're saying. There's definitely attraction here, and I'm significantly older. And I don't think that this is actually appropriate for me to engage in this way with you, but I really think that you're super cool. It would kind of be called grooming if I was to date you. And he looked at me and he was like, what? And I was like, have you ever been with a girl before? And he was like,
Yeah.
and I was like, yeah, no, like this is not my place for you, but I can help you get a girlfriend, is what I said to him. And my question is there an age thing? Is there? I know I told you it was
Well, so I mean, I guess it would depend. Again, you know, you have every expert goes, oh, it's just circumstantial, it's individualized. Well, it is, because if the 80-year-old that I'm, you know, coaching wants to date the 19-year-old that you're teaching, you know, there's all sorts of issues with that, right? But who am I to say, you know, usually the span is more like 10 or 20 years, and there's a lot of controversy with families and all that stuff. So I would probably have to jump into that and learn about the values of the person and make sure they're not chasing their daddy and whatever. Now, I'm not a therapist. A lot of the people that will come to me maybe has some things that they need to work out with a therapist first, because like I'm not trained on abuse or trauma or, you know, all of that. And that's really important before you come to a life coach. You know, life coaching is more forward thinking, goal setting. Where are we going to go? We're going to go from here. We're going to go to there. Doesn't mean I'm not going to dip in your past a little bit, but we're not going to live there. A therapist needs to live there, figure that out, help you figure that out. And so, you know, when my clients go online and they do the whole age range, I say, well, what are you most comfortable with? Now, almost always they go 5 years up, 5 years down, right? So 10-year span, which is great. I always try to have them go a little bit further than they're comfortable. Not 10 and 10, but like go 7. Go like, what if your guy or gal was just over that like boundary thing, you know? So just same with distance. Well, I want someone in my backyard. Okay, well, we all would love to find someone in our backyard, but like, just can you go a little bit more, you know? Because maybe God didn't put him in your backyard, you know? So it's stretching those boundaries, if you will. Did you say something? I'm sorry.
Oh, I love what you're bringing forward. It's really great that you're so clear on how to help these people find the love of their life again after a very devastating losing your beloved when you've been married is probably the hardest thing someone has to go through as a parent.
Yeah.
When you're paired, and I just and my heart is so tender for those people, you know, and it's like, yeah, and I could see how it would be really, you know, there probably is a lot of beliefs that you have to clear and work through to get to that place of welcoming love again and welcoming, seeing yourself, finding it again. And, you know, like once you get through the grief, you know, I've supported I'm not a coach in that way. I do deep processes and healing work with my clients, but I have had coach some women on grief that have lost their partner, and I've had that experience of coaching her through, you know, really clearing out what the grief is related to beyond just the death of the loss of, because it was a string of loss in her life, so she had kind of a theme of loss beyond just her main partner. And so it can really be a very tender time for someone's life. And so I love that you are bringing the light of hope. Like, hey, the buck doesn't stop here. You've got a full life to live still, and you can absolutely still have love in it.
The fog does clear, and sounds like I need to send some of my people to you, and you heal them, and then send them back to me, and I'll send them forward out into the world to love again.
I do deep work with people in that way. Like I help them connect the dots so that they don't have their past doesn't have to live in the now.
Yeah. There's a lot of whenever I speak to singles, again, it's mostly the stuff that I throw out from this book, but I mean, it leaves them hopeful. It leaves them thinking, wow, like this this really could happen for me again. And, you know, once they've done the clearing, the grief clearing, and once they've, you know, mourned the loss, whether it's a divorce or a death, you know, and they're starting to feel excited again, that's when you know you're ready. So
Thanks for working with my little video technical difficulties. I've got a little old man cat that needs my attention sometimes.
it's okay.
He's settling. You know, the thing that the one thing that I've been hearing across all generations when I'm asking them about what would you like to know about dating, um, is how do I know when I'm ready? And the other thing is how do I know when to step out?
Mhm.
Yep. So I've got that's in my book, the First Date Next Mate book. But in fact, I'm gonna do a cheat a little just so I don't forget them all. But there's several things. The main thing is to rediscover who you are as a single person. You know, if you've been coupled and you're used to doing couple things and have couple friends and do couple things, who are you as a single person? What interests that you couldn't do when you were coupled for whatever reason? For widows, widowers, all your guilty feelings are gone. You know, new widows and widowers, when they go out, they feel really guilty. They're like, I'm with someone other than my person, and it feels wrong. So
Yeah.
that's an indication that you're not ready. Um, when you get everything else stable in your life, now that doesn't mean you got to wait to be perfect. That's like have enough money to have a baby. You'll never have enough money to have a baby if you do, you know. But like your finances are now secure, and you know you're kind of
So
settled in all the areas. That's a good sign. No more negative feelings. This is a big one of, let's say, your ex, right? Your ex did you wrong, and every time someone brought up his name, you have nothing but spew awful, negative, awful things in, you know, about him or her. Your bitterness is gone, your revenge is gone. You know, you want good things for that person. Then that's a step that you've done some good healing. Another thing is be careful. This might also be widows and widowers, to not compare your past partner. I mean, I remember my dad, who's a retired minister, he told me, he said, you know, widows are the hardest people to date. I'm like, what? I'm not hard to date, you know? And he's like, no, because the man or the woman, if I switch it, um, is going to think you're always comparing them to their. And I'm like, well, that's crazy. It was crazy to me, but it's a thing, right? If you're looking for what you had before, you're not going to find it, right? You had a unique person. I would say if you're free of your fears, you know, some of those would be the saboteurs. You know, I'm too fat. I gotta wait till I lose weight, or I'm too old, or whatever. Those are your fears are diminishing. And then another one is you'll also be dating for the right reasons. When I first started dating, I was dating for the wrong reason, and that was to find a stepdad for my kids. Sounds
Oh,
like a great reason. It's not a great reason to date. That's a bad reason to date. Or maybe you've been, you know, 5 years and you haven't had sex. So I'm just going to date because I want to get me, you know, like wrong reason, right? So you want to be dating for the right reason. And then the last one again is you'll just be excited to date. You'll be like, oh, I wonder what the first, it's been forever since I've had that first kiss, and, you know, dressing up and getting butterflies in your stomach. And that's as opposed to feeling sick. Right, like, oh my God, you know, this is going to be awful, and you're worried and whatever. It's going to be a little bit more sense of excitement. So those are some good indicators.
amazing. I love that. And it tells me that I have some work to do.
Oh, I can help you.
um, so we were really like entwined with a different kind of community some years ago that really had um like people of this slightly wiser generation. And if you were to just give them, I'm just trying to think of like if you were to give them maybe one or two bits of like, all right, what you thought. Okay, let me track it back. My brain's all over the board here. Okay,
That's
so
okay.
tracking it back is like, okay, I went to a workshop. I'm going to give an example. So I went to a workshop, and this workshop, it was all people my age and slightly younger. And there was this one man who was in his like maybe 50s, 60s. He had lost his wife a year or two earlier, and his son had invited him into this sort of like find your body sensuality workshop. And everyone thought he was, and I'm going to use this creepy old man. And I was like, I totally befriended this guy because I don't really believe in those types of things. I mean, I do believe that there are people and non-gendered people who are weird and creepy and do things that aren't great. But this particular person, and I sat back and I watched what was happening, and he had things about him, like things that he learned how to date. So in his generation, going like this, like winking, was a sign of like, hey, I like you. In our generation, that is not a good sign for for millennials and Gen Z. Like people do not like that. And so,
Run.
well, right. And so when I sat down and I like was like, dude, all right, I just want to give you, I just want to like bring you up to speed because you're being put in a position that you don't even know. And he's like, I just don't understand what's going on. I'm just like, I'm trying to be flirtatious and I'm trying to do this thing. They're like inviting us to like, put ourselves out there. And I was like, you live in a different generation. And so
Yeah.
things like mannerisms that you're doing don't work anymore. And he goes, thank you so much for telling me I won't do that anymore. And so
Yeah.
I'm curious if you have like just some tidbits for like the wiser generations to be like, hey, that thing that you learned way back when, that's not a thing anymore. Do you have anything
Yeah.
like that for?
Well, I don't know if it's age or like that. That example would be age, but I don't know if there's I mean, I'm even thinking of old past his generation, dropping the hanky, right? Like, oh, where someone pick, like that would be even back even earlier. But if you can think of dropping the hanky types of mentality,
Yes.
all that means is, hey, look at me, right?
Yes.
And so I do a body language of love and dating class. It's really cool. I actually don't. I actually it's like a video that I show, and we talk about it afterwards. But like I know a lot of girls are like, how do I know if he's into me? Like, how do I know? I think this is cross generation. Okay. The number one thing you can do is smile. And, mostly we're like this instead of like this. And so we actually talk about a stance where, how you stand. Like, let's say you're waiting on a date or a friend, and you're just at the door. We automatically, all ages, okay, so 20 somethings, 50 somethings, we go straight to our phone because we're uncomfortable looking around, maybe making eye contact, smiling at people. It's just, would you agree with that? Your generation, my generation, when we go somewhere to meet somebody, we wait by looking at the phone.
Mhm.
Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I totally agree with that. Like,
Yeah. And so, and that means, so the number one thing, put your phone away, have a stance, shoulder backs, have a confident look and smile, in fact, his shoulders will be back. Okay. He's not going to be slow. How do you know if he's into you? He's going to smile at you. He's going to look at you. He's going to expand, right? More alpha things. He will touch his face somehow, right? Like he'll touch his face. Like for women, I don't have long hair, but we flip our hair. It's a thing. Like if you go into the bars and you observe people and they're head back and laughing. I mean, it is almost instinctual. Some other things, obviously leaning in, okay, not in a weird way, not getting into like, so if somebody leans into you and they lean back, that means don't lean in, right? So, but if you're at a networking thing and you're leaning in and they're leaning back, that's a good thing, right? Or if they touch your arm or if they any kind of touch. Like, if I never want to be, a lot of people when I was single, they would confuse my kindness for interest, because I
Mhm.
would sit, I would give eye contact, I would smile, and I would do the head nod, and I would, but I was very careful not to touch, because touching means maybe I'm interested, and I would not lean in. I would be very aware of those kinds of things. And then other than that, to know if a man likes you, he will text you, he will call you, he will pursue, he will want to be with you. Um, and I think that's cross generational. Sperm chases egg. Men know they're supposed to be the ones to do the asking out, to pursue the woman. And that may have started a million years ago, but I think that even in the newer generation, if there's a 20 something that is into you, he is going to pursue you with all that he knows how to do. So, however that looks for him, there will be a lot of pursuit. And the pursuit might be texting, calling, whatever, but I can even navigate them beyond, because a lot of people stay here and they don't get out of here, instead of, all online dating is really offline dating, because the goal is to be offline and to actually meet, right? And have a cup of coffee or have a drink or something.
Absolutely.
Let's talk about so in my generation, ghosting is a thing.
Mm-hmm.
And there's also like a lot of there's a lot of people who are trying to force relationships or force
Right.
more attention. And so one of the things is that I'm constantly like pushing at people is listen to your intuition. And also um oh, there's a specific line that I say. My poor brain today. um is take mixed signals as a no. And
Yeah.
because people are always like, "But does he like me?" I mean, you would know. Like, people who like each other really make sure that people know, right?
Yes. So also, and this I'm copying. I when I wrote my book, when I wrote my first book, and this is like the meatiest, it's got the most information. I read 55 dating books as I was writing this book. Now, who reads 55 dating books? Probably, a lot of people in a lifetime don't read that many. But I was retired. I was retired from teaching, and I had the time to do it. And so in the back of my book, I picked 10 of those dating books, and I picked out all the best stuff and I put it in the book, because there's just so much good stuff out there. So I'm trying to look up her name. Jess McCann says how to read the buying signs. Like, a lot of my clients are like, well, I don't know if he likes me. I mean, I feel like, at the beginning it was really, but like, he's already told you how he feels about him. If he is texting you, calling you, pursuing you, asking you out on a date, that is high interest. If you go, hey, how's your day? And he's like, cool, low interest. And if it's somewhere in the middle, like, oh, I'm good, how are you? And you're like communicating, but you're not asking out, you're kind of somewhere in the middle, that's mild interest. Okay, who do we want to pursue us? We want to pursue someone with high interest. Now, at the beginning, you're dating online, you're talking to 3 or 4 or 5 different people, as you well should. They are too. So if it was really good at the beginning, but now it's kind of, maybe someone else is taking your place. Somebody else is emerging to the top for the other person. You're not committed to anybody else yet. You're meeting. I call them meet and greets, right? You're going to go out for a cup of coffee. You're going to go out for a drink. You're going to go and you're going to meet them. So, yeah, the saying, when people tell you who they are, believe them. It's kind of the same thing. You can tell if they're low interest, mid interest, high interest, just by the way that they interact with you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Great.
Mm-hmm.
So with all this conversation that we've been having, I'm wondering if there's like a dating self-love like tool or process that you could take some of our viewers through.
Okay. So it's not really again, this is something else I've borrowed from somebody else, and it's I'll tell you who I borrowed it from. Her name is Byron Katie. She has a book, Loving What Is. And I do this with clients often because it's about examining your thoughts. So first of all, I think we have about 90,000 thoughts a day, okay? About 80% of those are not true, negative and not true thoughts. All the thoughts that we had yesterday, we're going to have again today. So if you had a not true thought yesterday, you're probably having the same not true thought today. So this book really goes into examining your thoughts. So I'll give 2 examples of using this process. Okay, it's basically, I don't know, 4, 5, or 6 questions. I'll go through it with you with 2 examples. One of them is someone in more my age group. Let's say I think he's in his 50s, and he's always saying, I live in Louisville, Kentucky, and he says, Louisville, Kentucky is the worst place to date. He says that all the time. And what's interesting is when I go and speak in other states, like let's say I go to Phoenix, Arizona, and I talk to singles, and they're like, oh, this is the worst place to date. I'm like, really? I thought, or if you go to North Carolina and you talk to singles, they're like, oh, I live in the worst city to date it. No, it's a not true thought. So he found this meme on Facebook one time, and it says 5 worst cities to date in. And of course, number 5 said Louisville, Kentucky. So I said, let's examine that thought, because he is really holding on to this thought. And, law of attraction says if you're in the wrong city to date, if that's the belief, then you will continue finding no good people to date in your city, because that's what your belief is. So the first question is it true? So I asked this person, let's call him Tom. Tom, is it true that your city is the worst place to date? And he says, yes. Okay. Second question. Can you be absolutely sure that it's true? And he's like, well, I mean, I guess I haven't literally met every single woman in my city, so no, I can't be absolutely sure that it's true. So already with question 2, we've got him thinking, okay, I can't be absolutely sure that it's true. The third question is, how do you react when you think that? Like, what comes up for you when you think I live in the worst city today? Well, I feel discouraged. I feel hopeless. I feel like maybe I should move. I feel like defeated. Okay. How do you feel without that thought? So if you didn't have the thought, I live in the worst city to date in, who would you be? How would you feel? Well, I'd feel hopeful. I would know that she's here. I would maybe try a little bit harder. Like I would open my eyes, and so I was like, okay. Now, I'm not asking you to drop the thought that you live in the worst city to date in. I'm not asking you to drop the thought, but can you think of 3 good reasons to keep the thought? That's always hard, because they're going to want to say things like, well, because I've been dating for 12 years now and I haven't. I was like, okay, there's one. you know and then at the end you say, now flip the thought. Flipping the thought would be, uh, I live in the best city to date. Now, is that perhaps even more true? Well, it definitely could be true, because you're thinking a thought that you already are not sure if it's true, because you haven't met every single person in there. I think I mentioned that one of my clients currently is a 24-year-old widower. And his thought was that being a widower is an unattractive trait at his age. He believes that to be true. And I said, well, what, I'm talking him through that. And he's like, well, I talk to women, and, we're texting or communicating, emailing or whatever, he's on a couple of the apps. And as soon as I say that, well, then they drop off, like the communication is gone. I said, oh, so the story that you're making, this is a Brene Brown thing. The story you're making up in your head is women don't like the idea of dating a widower. That's not an attractive thing. And I said, well, I said, how many times has this happened? And granted, maybe he said 10, 15 times. So of the thousands of women, he picked the 10 or 15. Okay, so we talked through, I said, well, did you know that in my first book, I talk about what a scammer looks like? A scammer is almost always a widow or widower. And let's say someone told them that. Let's say they had that information. And all of a sudden they're like, oh my gosh, she's a scammer. No, you're not. You don't fit the profile otherwise. You don't have just one picture. You don't have me. There's a lot of traits of what a fake profile is. But I said, let's say two or three of them heard that and they went away. Let's say two, three, four, or five of them are online dating, like you're online dating. And again, somebody else emerged to the top and you just didn't. Has nothing to do with you being a widower. Let's say, I mean, there's so many other things that it could be. So I went through this process with them. So just again, to kind of go through the steps, the first question was, is it true? Yes, very strong. Can you be absolutely sure it's true? Yes. He was like, I'm absolutely sure that's true. So see, again, that's his saboteur being so strong that he can't even think of anything beyond that. How do you react when that's true? Well, I feel like I'm never going to meet anybody again. I can't remember everything he said, but it was very he's feeling very bad, very discouraged. And I said, well, who would you be without that thought of you thinking that they think that's an unattractive trait? Well, I would think that maybe that would be an attractive trait. Maybe they would ask me questions about that, and maybe they would know that I've already loved somebody, so I would be a great husband, like all these positive things. Great. Now, can you think of a reason? I'm not telling you to drop the thought. Can you think of a reason to keep the thought? Well, his reason was, it's happened so many times that it must be true. I don't think he came up with three different ones. Now flip it around. The flip thought is being a widower is an attractive trait. Now, could that be more true? He couldn't see it to be true because of his experience. But, when I was a widow, I would have loved to marry a widower, and I did. And he happens to be a widower. Didn't have to be, but that was a preference for me. And so yeah, so that's one thing I do with almost all clients when they come to me with all of these negative thoughts, and again, they're saboteurs. The saboteurs, I do this whole activity with them and do a visualization with them and have them recognize what their saboteurs are. Somebody wrote a book called it's on my shelf. I think it's called Positive Intelligence. And he identifies like 9 or 10 of our biggest saboteurs. And now there's hundreds of them, right? We can name them. We can name the saboteurs because our experiences that happen to us are getting us stuck. So I know that in the book How to Find Love Again, there's 16 different things that my clients and all of my single girlfriends would say. And they're things like, I have a bad picker, or where's all the good guys? Or I was going to open it up, and where can I find a man who, fill in the blank, doesn't want sex only, doesn't drink like a fish, doesn't cuss like a sailor. How come it's too hard to find somebody who meets my standards? Love hurts. I just don't want to do it again, right? So all of these are blockers. All of these are blockers. And so the number one thing that singles can do is to really work with somebody, whether it's a coach or a therapist, to get unblocked. I was actually blocked when I was dating like a wild woman. Remember, I was going to find a stepdad for my kids. How hard can this be? You go online, meet someone adorable, you get married, live happily ever after. It's just that easy. No, it's not. And so I had a lot to learn, but I was noticing a pattern in dating after a while, and that is why I wrote I didn't really. It's a dating log, and with the dating log, I got a Steno notebook. Don't have to buy the dating log. A Steno notebook, wrote down who I met, all the things about them, and then sometimes I'd meet, and I'd be like, big no, or I would be like, everything went great and whatever. Anyway, over time, I noticed that there were about 5 men that were falling for me, and I was not falling back. These were good-looking men. They loved me. They would have cared for me. They were financially responsible. They were great dad, like all the things. And so then I was like, huh, there's you and me, and you and me, and you and me, and you and me, and you and me. I'm the common denominator. I was the one that was stuck. And sure enough, I was. You know, when my husband died, kids got therapy, kids got taken care of, the kids. I didn't go to therapy. So of course, then I did. I went to therapy. I got unstuck and then was ready to love again. So it is definitely a process. It is something that I love to work with singles on because there is hope, and you're not too old, and you're not too fat, and you're not too this, and if you're married, there might be some work there. I do a lot of, I'm doing a class right now on attachment styles. Attachment styles is, I think, revolutionary work in the relationship world. And if you ladies don't know about attachment styles, that's something you could dive into with your significant other. I mean, it's just really, really valuable information. So I don't know. Do you all have any other questions? I kind of threw a lot at you.
Yeah, no, this is great. We're coming back. No, this is great. And attachment styles are amazing.
Amazing. Yes.
Like really like diving into the deeper of understanding of why we reach out and seek relationships that we do in the ways that we do, and really understanding how to lean in or lean out. I mean, my exploration of attachment style really helped me kind of step out of and become earned secure. So I was disorganized, fearful, avoidant. And so part of loving me was like being pulled and pushed at the same time, like, come closer, but stay away from me.
Yeah.
That was really confusing.
Yeah. And so with this, I have an intense couples coaching for that's a more in-person thing. I do any of my coaching virtually, like right here, but this is like in person. But those attachment styles can be healed in relationship, and it's not just doing work on yourself, because your partner is going to be the one that triggers you, right? And your partner's like, well, all I said was, and you blew up. Well, that was your 8-year-old self trying to get a need met, that your spouse doesn't know that you're supposed to meet that need. And so you do this same dance over and over again. And as soon as you learn about each other's attachment styles, and then it takes you through this process of how to heal. So really, really good work. So
well,
any questions you have? I know, like,
that's all good.
I just really love your work. It's beautiful. I acknowledge you. It's really, really wonderful to see how passionate you are about this desire to help people find love again after they've been widowed or lost a partner or whatever it may be, no matter what age you are. And it's like, it's great. You're serving such a great niche and a great thing. And I just love it, because everybody is worthy and deserving of love in their life. Everyone.
Yes.
It's not too late, and it's always possible. And my grandmother remarried twice after my grandfather died, and she lost my grandfather, and then she lost the second person that she was married to for a while, and then she remarried her high school sweetheart as her last husband.
Yeah.
It was really, really, it was really sweet. Like, my whole family was just like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. Like, they've known each other since they were like, 13 or something.
Yeah.
And that was so cool to see my grandmother be in her 70s and remarrying, and it was really, really cool. My whole family celebrated it, and it was just really such a special thing. And of course, she ended up being a widower 3 times, my grandmother. But it was her journey. It was her journey.
Yeah.
That happened.
She got to love three different people. I mean, God gives us more than one person to love in a lifetime. So grateful for that.
Right? Exactly.
Tell us how to find more about you. And like, I mean, people are watching and listening, and so
Well, the main thing, it's a long website name. It's loveandlaughterlifecoaching.com. So love and all spelled out, loveandlaughterlifecoaching.com. And on there, it has my rates. People are like, how much does it cost? Right? It's not cheap to hire a life coach, but I will tell you, my rates are much lower than probably the vast majority of my colleagues. And I think because 3/4 of my clients are next time around singles and a lot of them are strapped for cash, I'm not going to charge $900 for, 3 sessions or something. So anyway, it has my rates, what I do, has all my books with book links. My books are very inexpensive. The First Date Next Mate is like I say, the juiciest one that's got the most information in it. I think it's like 13 something on Amazon. How to Find Love Again is $5, a little over $5. And then I think the dating log, I don't know which one. The dating log is maybe $6 or something. So yeah, but it's all on my website.
Tell me the website again.
loveandlaughterlifecoaching.com. Very long.
Love and Laughter
Lifecoaching.com.
Got it. And we can find your books there. We can find all your like social media. We can have all of the things, right?
That's right.
Amazing. Your work is so necessary. It's so good.
Thank you.
All right, Dawn.
Oh, beautiful. Well, this week I have a special treat for all the women out there that are seeking to have just an opportunity to reflect, release, and reclaim. I'm hosting a free women's circle this Friday at 2 p.m. PST time zone. And so it's free. Come jump in, come experience a little bit of a ritual to come home to yourself, because spring has sprung and here we are. We're about to step fully into spring. So what is our year-long journey through, winter and everything? It's time to reflect and let go of parts of ourselves, and what are we reclaiming to take forward into the new? And so this is an opportunity to do that.
All right. Well, it also sounds like the two of you could have an opportunity to like, and help others' clients out.
Yeah.
I want to just reiterate something that you both shared, is that we all are deserving of love. And something that our listeners and our viewers have heard me say time and time again is that you are worthy of love, dignity, and respect just for existing. And we all deserve that, to do that together. We are wired for connection. We are wired for community. And part of, like the self-love piece is really showing up for ourselves and learning to love ourselves and learning to, love the saboteur and move through that. And also to walk with someone else doing the same thing. And you don't have to be completely healed to be in a relationship, because we are an evolutionary species and we are evolving towards our best selves every day. So it's okay to step into courage and step into relationship with ourselves and with others. Just remember that you are worthy of love. So thank you both for showing up.
Thank you.
Sweetness, in your passion, in your work, and your commitment. Like, I just want everyone to know that being in your own business and being a coach is actually a relationship with business, with money, and with your purpose. And it is one of the most wild relationships. And you really like, it's not only a mirror, but there's a whole lot of other dynamics in this relationship. And so I think that it's absolutely courageous to step into your practice and keep like holding the light of your love to the world and saying, this is what I got for you. And you can take it if you want, and you don't have to. And I think it's just super courageous to show up in love, for love, the way you both are. So thank you so much for your time today, Elizabeth.
Thank you. I appreciate it. It was fun.
Yeah. That's what I was hoping for. And thank you so much, Dawn, for your commitment to this show and for your work and how you have molded me as a person.
Thank you.
I love hanging out with coaches every day.
Doing it, but
I want to give a big shout out to Roy and Russell, our team that makes all of this possible. The graphics, the marketing materials, Buzzsprout, StreamYard, emails and all of that jazz. Like, you work so hard, and we're so grateful for all of your time and your attention. Thank you so much for, also committing and being present for self-love. It's amazing. And thank you. I'd also like to give a big shout out to Scott Katamas, Love Coach Academy, Global Peace Tribe, and all of you who show up weekly for your own self-love and for the self-love of others. We're all in it together, and we're all doing the work. And so I will see you, Dawn and I will see you same time, same place next week. So reach out and have a good week.